And so we see a nigga reaching and holding, and we see some other niggas behind him, like 50 Gutter and them, you know, his niggas and whatever. And we see the nigga look like he about to up, so nigga, we just start shooting shit.
Like, I don't really hear people say that together. I don't hear people say, you're really here because of 50 Cent. Like, we know you because of 50 Cent.
When you're chatting about East Coast hip-hop, you cannot leave out G-Unit, man. Back in the early 2000s, these guys were like rap royalty. They rocked those baggy pants, do-rags peeking out under their snapbacks or hats. It was the style. G-Unit was basically a part of the culture. Their first album, which is now 4 times platinum, marked a whole era. But why is it that most folks, including 50 Cent himself, want to forget about G-Unit and what caused things to go so bad that people almost lost their lives? Now, 50 Cent speaks out on how he almost murked the game after their feud, and how the legendary G-Unit was destroyed once and for all. Alright, so the G-Unit story kicks off in the gritty streets of South Jamaica, Queens back in the late 90s and early 2000s. Picture this, while the crack epidemic was tearing through South Jamaica, 3 young guns were spitting rhymes as teenagers. You might know him better as Tony Yayo, Lloyd Banks, and the man himself, 50 Cent. Now, 50 Cent had quite the roller coaster ride. After surviving being shot 9 times and getting the boot from Columbia Records, he even found himself blacklisted in the music biz. But you can't keep a good rapper down, right? Instead of throwing in the towel, he hit the studio and dropped the legendary Guess Who's Back mixtape. That was the game changer that caught the attention of Shady Records, who signed him on the spot.
My manager gave me a copy of Guess Who's Back, and within the first couple of songs, I was like, yo, he's back. At that point in time, I think we had found out that he wasn't signed yet, so, we have a chance to maybe do something with him, let's, you know.
But here's the kicker. 50's contract had a little clause that said he could start his own label if he wanted to, and that is exactly what he did. He didn't forget his roots either. He inked deals with 2 guys he'd been spitting bars with in those South Jamaica streets since he was a child, and that was the story of how G-Unit came to be. So check it out. 50 Cent, Lloyd Banks, and Tony Yayo were the OG members of G-Unit, and just in case you're curious, G-Unit stands for Gorilla Unit. These guys dropped a bunch of mixtapes like No Mercy, No Fear, God's Plan, and 50 Cent is the Future. But here's the plot twist. When G-Unit was gearing up to drop their debut album in 2003, Yayo found himself locked up. He got nabbed for first-degree possession of a loaded firearm as a convicted felon. That's when G-Unit had to call in reinforcements, and they brought in Young Buck as a temporary stand-in for Yayo. It took some time, but eventually Young Buck officially became a G-Unit member. Now let's talk about Beg for Mercy, which dropped in November 2003 and instantly became a classic. G-Unit was at the height of their game at this point. Around this time, they also welcomed The Game into the crew.
This is Game TV again. We stunting. We really looking for somebody to beat up.
The Game jumped on board right after the album track was recorded. Dr. Dre and Jimmy Iovine discovered him and figured, hey, let's promote this new talent through G-Unit. The first G-Unit albums The Game featured on were Lloyd Banks and Young Buck's debuts. And from there, The Game never looked back. He even teamed up with 50 Cent on tracks like How We Do, Hate It or Love It, and West Side Story. Fun fact, 50 even said he penned about 6 songs onto The Game's The Documentary album during this time.
Like, the songs that he did have was music that I made with Dre, not with Game with me. How We Do, Hate It or Love It, Church for Thugs, Special, Higher, West Side Story.
But here's the twist in the story. The Game never really acknowledged or gave 50 Cent any props for his work on the album. Instead, he claimed that everything 50 said on the record was all 50's doing. Things got pretty frosty between them during this time. And for the video of their track Hate It or Love It, 50 Cent supposedly refused to sit up front next to The Game and opted for the back seat instead. A few months down the line, 50 Cent gave The Game the boot from G-Unit, and he did not mince his words. It all went down during a radio interview on Hot 97. 50 straight up said he's gone and told The Game to cut it out with the G-Unit talk.
So where does he stand as far as G-Unit is concerned right now?
Across the street or around the corner. He's not in my camp.
Not at all.
No way.
So the two of them went on a diss track spree, with The Game firing shots at 50 in 300 bars and running, 50 hitting back with his own diss track, I'm Not Rich and Still Lying. But here's the kicker, The Game wasn't the only G-Unit member to feel 50's wrath. Next up on the list was Young Buck. So why'd Young Buck get the boot? Well, it went down 3 years after The Game got the boot. Young Buck and 50 Cent started clashing, and as a result, Young Buck started vanishing from not just G-Unit mixtapes, but also from several G-Unit tracks. When G-Unit showed their tunes to MTV, Buck wasn't even in the mix. Feeling like he needed to speak up, Buck decided to spill the beans on the press, hoping things might might change for the better. But you guessed it, in classic 50 Cent style, he made a big announcement on Hot 97 on April 7, 2008. He basically said Young Buck was out and gave his reasons. Buck was airing out their private business in public, missing recording sessions, and had some issues with substance abuse too. Young Buck fired back with a diss track aimed at 50 Cent and other G-Unit members, and 50 Cent responded by recording a phone call.
Man, I've been lost out here, man. You understand? I know I owe you money. You understand? I mean, far as me paying you back, it's always been on. I mean, I should have really been. There's no excuse I can honestly say about me borrowing you the money that I owe you and should have not paying you back. But far as I don't never want you to think that I ain't trying. That's the whole struggle of what's with me now.
Fans knew this was the beginning of the end for the G-Unit. If you're a true G-Unit fan, you know this is some sad shake my head. Buck made his response to this move from 50, and he spoke on it during an interview with DJ Vlad. This is what he had to say.
Real man shit tears. That don't make you pussy because you become emotional on a conversation with your brother or whatever the case. So I never felt that energy from that part. I just felt fucked up from him trying to play me pussy from some shit like that.
Last little bit you heard, it's not just some regular phone call between 50 Cent and Young Buck. Buck was legit crying, trying to patch things up with 50. But guess what? The G-Unit saga continued, and this time 50 Cent had a beef with one of the original crew members. This is how it all went down and how G-Unit basically fell apart. So the rift started when 50 Cent and Lloyd Banks butted heads. Banks turned down the chance to have Eminem featured on his third album. 50 Cent wasn't too thrilled about it and took to Twitter to air his grievances, saying decisions like these were why he and Banks weren't as tight as they used to be. He even dropped lines like, I shot this guy, he's messing with my money. I knew I shouldn't have messed with these folks. Gonna say you don't want the biggest. After this incident, 50 Cent and Lloyd Banks' friendship just never fully bounced back. But Banks wasn't the only old buddy 50 Cent had a falling out with. In February 2014, Tony Yayo publicly stated that G-Unit was officially breaking up. Some reports claim that this happened because Yayo and Banks were just not as hungry for success as 50 was. Yayo called it quits in 2014, saying he'd already achieved everything he wanted in hip-hop. And as for Banks, his second and third albums didn't come close to the success of his debut. 50 Cent wasn't shy about it either. He said he did a whole lot for Yayo and Banks, but they didn't have the work ethic to keep the success going. In fact, they even compared him to milk. Yep, things got sour real quick in G-Unit.
No matter what you do, they'll spoil after a while. What I'm saying to you is I've done a lot for them, to the point that like being personable with people, they'll feel like that homeboy code, guy code type of energy. They'll be like, yo, you know what? You got it, so you should give it to me.
And you won't believe how Tony fired back at 50 Cent's Twitter jab. He came back with a heavy hitter, saying, I took so many bullets for G-Unit, my mom's house got shot up, and my sister and niece almost lost their lives. And now he's being compared to milk. It was a sour taste in his mouth for sure. But even after all that drama, G-Unit tried to patch things up. They dropped the EP Beauty of Independence, and in 2015 released the album The Beast is G-Unit. But in all honesty, it was too little too late. The bond they once had was shattered beyond repair. 50 explains this point of view on the G-Unit at this one interview, even though you could tell that 50 himself couldn't clarify exactly what it was that broke the G-Unit up. He thought that the gang mostly fell apart because all the members were simply riding his own wave and not doing their own thing. It's like he became tired of carrying the whole group on his shoulders. So he went on to say,
so they just rode the wave and then they never learned how to grind properly?
That's what I'm thinking. Now, when
Is
you
that
don't
your
see them
fault, though?
sustain
Are you a
it,
spoiled
That's what you're
father?
thinking? That's what you're saying?
that's what I'm saying. This is my, look, I'm trying to figure it out like you're trying to figure it out right now.
playing
But
us.
come on.
all these feuds and clashes are pretty much why 50 Cent is all about moving on and trying to forget the G-Unit days.
I'd like to forget the G-Unit.
No.
Yeah, whatever. You know your fans ain't gonna forget
I love
that.
Who Kid.
NWA was out of here, yo. How you not gonna do that?
Fans did not appreciate his comment. They turned against 50 real quick. 50 needs to chill with that. G-Unit is forever imprinted in hip-hop history. Another comment said, 50 is the only one who wants to forget G-Unit. All real hip-hop fans, especially from my era, would love a G-Unit movie. You can't forget the impact of G-Unit. P.S. Lloyd Banks is top 5. Now, here's the thing. Some folks might say that 50 Cent needs to shoulder some of the blame for how G-Unit fell apart. Others might argue that 50 was onto something when he pointed out that Young Buck, Tony, and Lloyd Banks, they didn't put in nearly enough effort. Whichever side you're on, there's one undeniable truth though. A G-Unit reunion is pretty much off the table for the foreseeable future. What's y'all's thoughts on this rift that caused the demise of G-Unit? Did 50 Cent take it too far with some of his comments? Let us know what you think down in the comments section below, and as always, remember to keep it RIZZLE.